Good morning, everyone. Good to see you all again after this week. I am excited for another weekend coming up. As we were just saying, probably not going to be a huge weekend, but we're still going to try to take it easy and have a little fun. So this is the small business and tech talk that we do on a weekly basis. And I am trying to think about different ways of organizing this session. So we can potentially have some open forums versus doing sessions where we're talking about specific technologies, because that's sort of the intention that I had when I started this, so we can get other folks that are potentially not familiar with certain topics to be organized and understanding and kind of learning about different tools and tactics that they can use in their business. So I'm working on figuring that out. And, if you have any suggestions on how to kind of move this forward, let me know. This is recorded and it will be available for you or anyone else that you want to share it with later on. It'll be available on my website through YouTube as well. And there are certain topics that we go through on a weekly basis. Today's talk, as you should be seeing my screen now, is going to be around website SEO. And that's a huge topic. So we won't take a whole lot of time, but we'll just kind of scratch the surface of it today. And if you have any other topics that you would like to learn about, certainly let me know. And I would love to put that on the schedule. I know that Heath had a discussion that he wanted to chat about ClickFunnels. So that's probably something we can schedule in later this, well, it's almost August now. So later this month, or next month, rather, in August. So next week, for everyone's information, we have an open forum on business challenges. So it'll be an open table discussion type of thing where we'll just talk about what type of challenges we're having, and if other people have suggestions for improving, the things that we're trying to deal with, or dealing with rather, we'll kind of go through that and get people's suggestions for each other's businesses. The following week, we'll have a discussion by one of my friends and a strategic partner to Data Up, Kelsey Mathis. She runs a business on marketing out of Chicago, and she's very good with sort of brand strategy kind of thing. So she'll talk about how to what's called niche down. So basically, like being very, very specific around your ideal clients and things like that. And so you can basically do social media and other things to kind of get that marketing side up and running very well. And that will be on August 14th. As of right now, I don't have any other topics past it. So if you have any topics, let me know. And I have a few other ideas that I want to kind of put in the schedule if no one else has suggestions. All right, so we have a couple of new folks today. So I like the networking aspect of this. So if you just want to take a couple, well, let's say 30 seconds, 45 seconds to introduce yourself so we're all familiar with each other's businesses, that would be great. So I'll go ahead and say this is Mo from Data Up. I'm the founder of this company where I focus on web design and analytics for e-commerce and retail businesses. And that's sort of my focus. I do also do technology strategy for specific businesses if they need from a sort of like a CTO basis as well. And so Joanna, you're next on my screen. You want to quickly introduce yourself, please?
Hi, my name is Joanna. I'm a graphic designer and I own a Postnet store. We do printing, shipping, and mailbox rentals. Basically, we provide easy solutions for marketing for small businesses. So if you need a mailing campaign done, then I'll design it, print it, mail it out, get it all done, do your business cards, do your branding, things like that, focused on paper products.
Awesome. And that's downtown Austin?
Downtown, right? Yeah, 1401 La Vaca Street.
Awesome.
Next to
Very cool.
But we deliver and we mail things, so you don't have to come down.
Okay. Yeah, keep the distance, right? All right, Heath, you're next on my screen.
You're welcome to come.
Hey everybody, my name's Heath Jacob. I'm in the process of actually just starting my marketing business. I'm focusing on getting lead generation through funnels. So using funnels to attract different customers for small businesses, and also sales products through funnels. So basically everything like Mo said earlier is kind of through ClickFunnels. I believe ClickFunnels and using funnels are one of the best strategies out there, one of the hottest ones, and it's really effective. So I help businesses, just get more leads.
Awesome. Very good. Anil, you're next on my screen.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Anil. I'm the founder of BHA Consulting Firm. It's a management consulting firm, and I work with small, medium, and large organizations. So the industries that I work with are manufacturing, information technology, and nonprofit organizations. And I work with them to and help them to improve their overall business strategy, business operations, and business processes that result in growth and sustainability. So that's what I do.
Awesome. Thank you, Anil. All right, Eric, you're on my screen next.
Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday. My name is Eric Garcia. I am an agent with New York Life, and I very simply help people make better financial decisions. You'll know that there are quite a few of us, so I'm trying to see how I can utilize some of Mo's techniques to help me get found easier. Thanks.
It's not my techniques. I don't deserve that. But yes, we will certainly talk about some of those things. All right, Casey, you're next on my screen.
Hi, I'm also like Heath, starting a marketing business, and my secret sauce is called Story Brand. So it's more around the copy part of the funnel, using the power of story to really connect with your ideal client and make sure that your offer is super clear so that they are really interested in what you have to offer.
Awesome. I love Story Brand, so it's awesome to have Casey here. All right, Ashif, you want to say a couple things real quick? Maybe he's not able to talk. All right, we'll move forward. So Ashif is helping me out with certain parts of the things that I do with Data Up because I just can't seem to do it all myself. So he's a good friend of mine, so he's helping me out with like web design stuff and whatnot. So it's all good to have him here, and thank you all for being here as well. I really appreciate it. So today's discussion, you guys can see my screen, right?
Yes.
Awesome. So today's discussion is around website SEO. And honestly, this topic is one of those things that we could talk about for hours on end because there's just so much that's in it. And I actually do a SCORE webinar workshop with around this usually every month. So if you want to see you hear about the bigger discussion and kind of get involved in that, certainly feel free to join in then. But let's get started. So website SEO, basically, you probably have heard of the term before. SEO is search engine optimization. And basically what that means is getting on top of, let's say, Google, or at least be listed on Google is sort of the first step of SEO. So why do we care about it? If we go think about the way folks visit our website, a lot of it is actually coming from searches. Organic searches is what it's called. So there's a research that was done by Bright Edge that found that 51% of all website traffic come from organic search. So that basically means that someone has to type in, let's say, financial services in terms of Eric's, work that he's doing in order for it to get to you. But now think about all the different financial services things that would come up when you search for that, right? So it's important to be figuring out how can you go, at least be listed somewhere on Google is usually the ones that we talk about, but there's also Bing and a bunch of other search engines that you can kind of talk about. All the others that you see here there's going to be, of course, some from paid searches. So those are basically ones that you basically are saying, okay, I'm going to pay for someone to click on this link to get to my website. Then 5% social, which actually is increasing a lot more because a lot more people are on social, especially nowadays during COVID. And then all other are the 34% is from all other sources, which basically means anytime you're doing email marketing, that counts as something outside of all those other areas. So let's say you send it out to 1,000 people. Let's say 20% of those people visit your website. Those will be counted as all other. In some cases, like Google Analytics, you will see them as a email. Well, in most cases, you'll see them as email as a channel that comes up. There will be other things where, for example, if you're doing network marketing, like I do, talk to people a lot, so that if someone goes to your website directly, that counts separately. That will also be in the 34%. So now one quick sort of differentiation is when you search for something on Google, for example, the thing that will come up on the top, it will be identified by ad. That means that someone is paying to have that ad there. And so they can control all of these things that you see right here, including their phone number, their sort of, well, these are a little different, but the words that come up here, these are all controlled by the company that's creating that SEO, that ad. It used to be, for Google, it used to be called Google AdWords. Now it's changed to Google Ads. There's a whole bunch of things that Google does within that. Underneath that, you'll always notice things that are just regular websites that as you see here. And so these are where your SEO comes in. So this is what you're paying for. You can't get on top of ads, for example, but the SEO stuff, you can always be on top, but it all depends. Like, for example, going back to the financial services, if let's say Eric decided to set up a company or a website for himself, he's not going to be on the top of Google SEO or financial services if someone searches for that, because there's so many other companies that have been coming up for financial services for a very long time. So there are different sort of aspects to that. One is called domain authority, for example. That basically means that other domains, other websites are saying that this person or this website is an authority in this topic. So basically what that means, for example, Eric works for New York Life. So New York Life may be one that comes up on towards the top, but there's obviously so many financial services companies that it's sort of like a tug of war the whole time between who comes up top and bottom. We're not going to get into that discussion today too much because it's just so much that we have to talk about. We're just going to start talking about how do you sort of start getting on Google and then start over time improving. So the first thing you do is basically just being accessible on Google or other websites, or excuse me, Google search engines. And so we'll talk about how to do that. The next one that you do is keyword optimization, which basically means that anytime you're, let's say, making a video or writing an article, or let's see, like in this Heath's example, he was looking into doing some affiliate marketing. So he would have a lot of different products in his website that let's say you and I could search for, like, oh, I'm looking for, a tent or something, and it would come up as like, hey, this is, this tent for this, and this is my review for it, whatever. So let's say in the form of a review, if you're using the proper keywords that people are searching for, that's how you show up on top of Google. But there are, again, a lot of other complexities that go on within it. So this part, the keyword optimization and having compelling content like videos, images, things like that, are not super difficult, but it is something that you have to do if you want to get towards, like, start going up the chain on search engines. To be, well, the goal is always to be on the first page of Google, obviously, but depending on what keyword you're trying to be first for, you may not be, and that's a whole different discussion. So, and by the way, just if you are interested in getting around that and being on the first page, you would want to do something like a Google Ads. That way you're paying for it, showing up on top, but you're just not, you're not able to because of various different reasons. Anyway, so, and then you get into this more complex areas of SEO, which we're not going to talk about here, but it's basically stuff that are called snippets and schema markups, which basically means that you're having specific type of content that will show up for users before other things. So as an example, let's say that I go to, I think you guys can see my whole browser here. So let's say that I search for a meatloaf recipe on Google. You'll see this here, right? This sort of scrolling bar thing comes up here with easy meatloaf, whatever like that. That basically is what's called a rich snippet. So before you see these articles that come up or websites, you'll see these because this is how people are attracted to these sort of this sort of article. So if I see, like, oh, okay, so this is rated really well, this is also rated really well, I can make a quick decision on, okay, this is the recipe that I want because, whatever reason, maybe it's the whatever they said in there sounds good to me. So that's one way to get around the whole issue of not being also on top, like this issue that we're seeing here. But again, that's kind of getting more complex, and we're not going to talk about that. There's also load time optimization. So if your website is slow, that affects SEO, and so you would want to make sure that your images are optimized. Your provider, the provider that you have, like GoDaddy, and I use SiteGround and WP Engine, for example. Those are pretty good. So you want to make sure your website is also loading fast. That affects SEO significantly. All right. So the first step, like I said, is to get found. And to get found, you can do several different things. You can do it in the manual way, which most of us are not going to do. This is just too much work, which is creating a sitemap.xml file manually. But again, we're not probably going to go do that. So we'll use a tool like one of these, for example. So if you have a WordPress website, you can use a tool, a plugin called Rank Math. There's also Yoast, YOEST, I think, plugin, which are the top plugins for SEO. And so they actually create a sitemap XML for you. And so the reason that's important is that that's how search engines look for pages on your website. So now going to that conversation, Google Search Console is the tool Google uses to make the search engine sort of research faster for you. So as an example, if I go to Google Search Console, let's see, you can just actually pull it up. All right, so it'll be here, and you can say start now. What this does basically is it will give me a page of different parts of my website. So it'll say, okay, so well, first of all, you have to set it up. So once you set it up with your domain, you'll have access to all the different pages that you have in your website with all the different content around it. I can't pull this up because I have some client data in there, so it wouldn't be right. But the whole point is you can basically see what keywords people are searching to get to your website. So you can see, for example, let's say in the case of Eric again, financial services, if people are seeing your service or your website on Google, you will see that that's the keyword. You also see if someone clicked on that in order to get to that website. So for example, like another good example would be for Joanna. So if someone is searching for a printing shop downtown Austin, that would be a lot more specific, and you have a lot more chance of showing up for Postnet versus like financial services, because there's just so many different things going on in there. So in that case, you could see, for example, what people are searching for. So it could be more not as specific, like let's say printing downtown Austin or something like that, which could just, maybe you're one of them. But then if someone searches for like Postnet downtown Austin, obviously you're going to show up, right? So once that comes up, if someone clicks on it, you will notice that there is an impression and there's a click. So impression basically means you showed up for that keyword, but someone may have not clicked on it. So if you see the counter, which is just the number going up for the clicks, that means that someone actually clicked on it, and that's actually what you want. Yes.
I can show my own data if you want to just let people have a really quick look.
Yeah, that'd be
what
great.
Google Search Console looks like.
I actually didn't think about the data that would pull up.
You have to just let me share.
Please. Yeah.
Oh, there we go. So here's the queries part.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. So as you notice on the overview, that basically shows you like what's going on as an overall part of the Google search console. And then once so the total number of clicks and impressions. So that's what I was talking about. So depending on how many times you show up for search. So if someone searches very specifically for something, like this one is triathlon and nutrition, Austin or whatever they search, and that shows up, that's an impression. But if someone clicks on it, that's a click. So those are the two differences, and that's important. So the other thing to be paying attention here is, besides the performance that you can see, is the URL inspection. And so once you, let's say, once you update something on your website, you want to make sure that your Google is picking up that URL as being available. So you can put in your URL and you can say, oh, hey, go search for this to Google, and they'll go kind of do their own thing. Just be aware that this process can be, for most websites, it can be several weeks to a couple months sometimes. So it takes a while for this stuff.
It's usually pretty quick though.
It depends on the website and various other things. But yeah, if you haven't changed a whole lot on your content, of the content, then it would probably be slow in most cases. But there's a lot of sort of things that honestly no one really knows about that Google does, that it's very unclear, I guess, from Google's side how often, but you can essentially force it to go look at it. So the point I was getting to is there's also the sitemaps. Thank you, Casey, for doing that. Towards the right-hand side, where if you go to the sitemap, this is where you can enter the URL of the sitemap that your, for example, Rank Math or Yoast SEO plugin created. That way you don't have to manually go to the URL inspection every time and add in your URL. That's sort of the advantage to having Google Search Console on the sitemap.
Well,
so,
real quick, does that window, does it show, or that console, does it show what keywords it's hitting when it's clicking?
Yes. So there is a section in there that will tell you about the keywords that people came to your website as well. Yeah.
And you can integrate it with Google Analytics, so you don't have to go to 2 different places.
Yep. Perfect. Yeah. Thank you, Casey. So
that's the question that I had then is, how do you integrate Search Console with Analytics? So
within Google Analytics, there is an option. It's under, I want to say, property settings, Anil, that if once you get in there, it'll have an option. Oh, do you want to connect it to Google Search Console? And you just say accept, and you're already in your Google account, so it just kind of does it pretty quickly. You can also add it to your Google Ads account. That way you can see the Google ad data as well in Google Analytics. That way it's all connected together. And they're obviously all connected, so that's all useful.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Sure. Thank you for the question. So the last sentence, or to finish up, is, so once you get sort of being found on Google or other search engines, but by the way, that Google Search Console only works for Google. So if you want to be found on, Microsoft Bing or whatever, you want to go to every single one and add your sitemap to their console as well. So the last, or the sort of next step after you are actually found on Google and you're starting to do things on your website, you want to make sure you're creating helpful content for people. When Google sends someone to your website from Google search and they stay on your website longer, that basically means that Google thinks that your website is useful and helpful. So the more that happens, the more your ranking will go up. So if you obviously create helpful articles or videos, well, people are going to stay on your website, and your ranking will go up, and obviously you're going to be doing better in your business. Same thing with the creating great user experience. If it takes people a long time to load your website, or if your website isn't appealing, they're probably going to leave, which is going to affect your ranking, and you're going to start going down. So there are tools that you can use to help in that whole process. Rank Math is the one I use for WordPress, and I prefer that. Yoast SEO is a pretty good one. If you are not using WordPress, SEMrush and Moz are pretty good tools as well for doing sort of keyword research and figuring out things around SEO. So that's my spiel. I meant for that to be shorter than that, but I apologize.
Oh, I have a question for you.
Yes, what questions do you guys have?
You went over that, for each search console, Google, Bing, whatever, Yahoo, is there a tool that has one view that you can manage all those by chance? Do you know of any?
I'm actually not familiar with a tool that kind of gives you a view of all of them, but is anyone else familiar with that maybe? Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't know, but we can always Google search it.
Okay.
I will have a look and see if I can find something later. All right. Any other questions?
Hey Mo, so how do you? I've heard this term lazy loading for
Yes.
websites. So how do you do that?
That's a topic for another day, perhaps. It's yeah. So on a quick note, because it does get involved like most technical things, but lazy loading basically means that you're going to load something to kind of cover it up, and then you're going to load stuff in the background. So you're not going to affect the load time of your website, which the SEO is taken into account. So depending on, are you using Elementor or I know you're using WordPress, but
Yeah,
what
I
are
don't,
you?
I'm not using Elementor as such,
Okay.
but it is just that, I was reading one of the articles when it comes to SEO optimization, and one of the things that they were talking about is that the load time also plays a very critical role when it comes to
Yes,
your SEO. And one of
absolutely.
the points that we're talking about is lazy loading, because as you rightly said that, if you don't optimize your images, then that could also impact your loading of the website. So
Hmm.
we're talking about, like, if you look into lazy loading as one of the options, because it depends upon the user, right? As the user scrolls down, the images pops up.
Yes.
So there's a delay, and so it becomes much more easier for the overall website to improve this loading time. So yeah.
Yeah. So there are two things that I'll mention around that. So if you're optimizing your images, the first thing you should do is figure out how big, if you can see my hand, how big the size should be. For a mobile device, you don't need to load a giant image, right? Same thing as if you have like a lot of, if I take a picture with my phone now, it'll be like 5,000 pixels or something crazy like that. You don't need that for a website. At most, you should have probably no more than 2000 pixels for a image for your website. But what you can do is for most headers and things like that, around 1600 pixels by whatever the height is that you need, that's fine. Because most computers are not gonna, have a bigger image than that. So basically what you do, the first thing you do is you take your image that you have, you size it down to the size, the appropriate, dimension that you need. And then once you've done that, put it into this website, tinypng.com. This will significantly reduce the weight of the size of the the file size. Let me be specific
The
of
resolution,
the.
the resolution.
Well, not the resolution. So it's a so let's say the kilobytes, right? The kilobytes of
Okay.
the file. So let's say that when you have an original image, it's probably 3 megabytes or something like that. Then you shorten it down to the size that you need. Then it probably becomes like 800 kilobytes or something. And then you put it into this website, it'll become like 200 or 100 kilobytes. That is so much better for your website, and it'll load it significantly faster. So that's the image optimization side. And so once you do that, that's sort of the first thing you could do to reduce the size or the make the load time faster. And then once you do that, you can look into lazy loading, which basically there are technical ways to do that. They're JavaScript, usually they're JavaScript libraries that you would use to optimize it. Since most of you guys, I think, have a WordPress website, there are plugins that'll actually do that for you as well. There is SMUSH, Smush is a this one is a pretty good plugin. So if you want to grab that, you can use that to lazy load your images. If you want to lazy load videos and things like that, there are other ways to do that as well. Obviously, there are plugins, but be careful not to have a ton of plugins on WordPress, because that will slow things down as well. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. You have to be careful about what you do. All right.
Thanks, Mo.
What other questions do you guys have?
Hey Mo, could we use these same things to like adjust for, say you're trying to put an image on an email signature or something like that?
Yes, absolutely. So when you're sending an image through an email, the size, you should have no more than 1,000 width, pixels. Probably 800 is more appropriate, but 1,000 would be fine. And then whatever the height is doesn't matter. So you make it that size through whatever image editor that you have, and then after that you can drop it into tiny PNG and it'll reduce it significantly. Yeah.
Got it.
Emails are not as big of a deal because if it's in someone's inbox, it's going to load, so it's fine. But you want to do that because it'll load faster, and that might mean someone reads it versus someone doesn't. All right. Any questions?
Yeah, one more thing. I'm not sure if you're aware of. Is there any website that talks about the top keywords that are being used and much more effective that can be used on the website? Is there any website as such?
Can you say that again? I don't think I understood you, O'Neill.
The keywords, right? You spoke about keywords, right? I mean, are there any website that talks about the top keywords that can be used on the website?
Top keywords.
I mean, or the effective, much more effective keywords that works better when you're
Oh, I
writing
see. So
about.
like, let's say you have a management consulting, but what
Yeah.
else can you use? That's a
Like
good
maybe
point.
keyword
So,
difficulty. Maybe that's what he's getting at.
yeah, potentially. Yeah, that's a good point. There is a tool that I use that I can't remember the name of. I'll try to think about it and I'll email it to you.
Sure.
Google has a keyword planner you can use.
Yeah, I think SEMrush does a little bit of this, but there's a good one that I used before, but I can't remember the name off the top of my head. But I'll send it to you
Okay.
once I find it. Yeah, the idea is you have to do just research around it. So keyword researching. So basically whatever keyword you're interested in, you just have to research around it. And I think even the all the public website that you sent to us before, I think that's probably one to research around as well. So yeah, that should be pretty good. But I'll find the one I used before and send it to you.
Thanks, Mo.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
I was just going to say there's a Chrome plugin that I use. It's called Keywords Everywhere.
Mhm.
And it's just a Chrome extension. And basically when you're searching, it helps you give you different ideas on the side. So it's kind of cool.
Cool. Nice. Okay.
Thanks.
So yeah, I have one more question. Would keywords tie into hashtags? I'm thinking social media posts. Would there be any connection between those and hashtags?
So they're technically different, but they do similar things. Yeah. So just like people are searching, for keywords on Google, they'll potentially search for those things and it'll come up as a hashtag. Yeah. So that's exactly right. Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah. You're welcome. All right. Any other questions? Okay, yeah, I found the website. So it's called SpyFU. And I'm not sure why it's spelled that way, but SpyFu, sure, yeah. All right, and Casey also put a tool in there that's an extension for Chrome, Mangools, I think it says, and KW Finder. So these are all different tools that you guys can look into, see which one works best for you. We're going to, does anyone have any other questions? Was this helpful for you guys? Yeah, all right, cool. So we will get more topics. Please send me your topics. And if you know other people that would be interested in having this types of discussion, please invite them as well. That would be awesome. So thank you guys so much for joining today and we'll see you next week. Have a great weekend.
Thank you, everybody.
Everybody.
Bye.